All right, we want to reach out once again to CTV News national correspondent Rachel Aiello. She is with the Conservatives this week. She's in Montreal, where, of course, everybody's getting ready for the debates. Plus, there is a battle on for those 70-plus seats in the province of Quebec. Rachel, what's on the agenda for Pierre Poilievre today?
Good morning, Anne-Marie. So he has another announcement in the same hotel location as yesterday. We don't yet know what he's going to be saying, but it's kind of a pattern we've seen this week, an early morning announcement. And then, as you alluded to, all hands on deck to do that debate preparation. So now all of the campaigns are here in Montreal. They all look like they're going to have some morning announcement, take some questions, and then go back with their teams and work on preparing for those all-important French and English leaders debates on Wednesday and Thursday.
You mentioned he's been doing an announcements in the morning, and one of the ones he did yesterday was to promise to use the notwithstanding clause to introduce consecutive sentences for offenders who've been convicted of multiple murders. What has been the reaction from other party leaders?
Yeah, so Liberal leader Mark Carney said that this was essentially dangerous and a slippery slope, saying that he believes that the federal government and the Prime Minister should defend Canada's charter rights. Jagmeet Singh also expressed reservations about what he's seeing as an uptick in use of the notwithstanding clause and kind of preemptively defending his approach. Poilievre, in a series of responses to journalist questions yesterday, said that he is actually looking at protecting the charter rights of innocent Canadians and victims of crime by upholding the charter in this way. He says he's fully in his parliamentary rights to pursue this. But certainly, I think big picture here, Anne-Marie, what's really interesting to me is this is another example of how in the last few days, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre has kind of leaned back on Stephen Harper's legacy, the former Prime Minister, Conservative Prime Minister. First, it was that economic action plan, bringing back that messaging. And then we had him over the weekend talk about reviving the Accountability Act. And then yesterday, it was saying he was going to get back to some of the Harper-era tough on crime legislation. And again, kind of tapping into that friction between the Conservative government and the courts.
Okay, well, speaking of friction, not only is Pierre Poilievre preparing to go head-to-head with Mark Carney, this will be the first time these two gentlemen, I mean, they've been battling it out in press conferences. We'll see them in the same space. But Pierre Poilievre is also being pulled into this tete-a-tete with Ontario Premier Doug Ford, who was asked about his comments that his campaign manager, Corey Tonight, made, suggesting that Poilievre and his team blew a big lead in the polls. Ford saying sometimes the truth hurts and that if Pierre Poilievre had his campaign manager, perhaps he wouldn't be in this position. What is the response from the Conservatives who, are trying to focus on this election campaign, which is now less than 2 weeks long?
Yeah, it's really a fascinating dynamic that's playing out, kind of this battle between two of the most prominent Conservatives in this country. Doug Ford did try to kind of temper his comments and say, there's 2 weeks left. It's a big decision for Canadians. But the fact that there is this friction and you have the premier of the most populous province saying essentially the truth hurts to the federal Conservative leader who is trying to be the next Prime Minister. And this all kind of plays back to the dynamics between two specific individuals. It's a bit like in the weeds Ottawa bubble stuff here, Anne-Marie, but Corey Tonight, who was Doug Ford's campaign manager, and Jenny Byrne, who is Poilievre's campaign lead. Some friction there, but I think, and you've heard Vashi Kapelos, our colleague, speak about this last evening on the national show, that when you kind of look down further through the ranks between MPs and MPPs and through to the staffer level, there is amicability and they're all on the same team's sentiment there. But it's quite interesting when you've got Doug Ford, who just won a resounding majority, speaking the way he is about the Conservatives trying to claim victory in the federal race.
Yeah, it's certainly a distraction for sure. Listen, tomorrow we know is when the debates start. The first will be in French, then the following day we'll have one in English. What does Pierre Poilievre need to do in the French and English debates to leave a mark on voters? He's behind still slightly in the polls, as we know of the numbers this morning. So what does he need to do to pull ahead?
I think 2 things. One, make a very clear case for why he is the best choice for change. Obviously, with the switch up in the Liberal leadership, Canadians are looking at Mark Carney as, I guess, change light, a slightly different version of the Liberal Party than they were looking at having to vote for before. But then I do think also having to find a balance between coming off as strong and conveying his points, but not seeming combative. And I actually think that's going to be a challenge for both Poilievre and Mark Carney, because we've seen as well in press conferences, Carney doesn't love to be challenged. And as you said, these two men have never been on a stage together, have never faced off. Like, we knew what the dynamic was going to be if it was going to be Poilievre versus Justin Trudeau in a leaders debate. But this is a new uncharted territory here. So I am very excited to watch these debates, very curious how they're going to unfold. And we'll have to watch and see if Poilievre is able to come off more soft, but also prime ministerial, and how Mark Carney kind of counters that back from his position. But I do think for the Conservatives specifically, it's trying to reach back to those moderate voters who might have been swayed to look at the Liberals because of the specter of Donald Trump. Obviously, Poilievre has been doing a pretty solid job of playing up to his base so far this campaign. So what's really at stake for him is trying to lock in those potential swing, more centrist voters.
All right, lots to watch in the next couple of days. CTV News national correspondent Rachel Aiello in Montreal this morning. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
If you like that video, make sure to subscribe to the Your Morning YouTube feed, where you can find all kinds of new content posted every weekday morning.